So I'm going to spend a lot of time today talking about the tool that is your pipeline and using it effectively. Okay. I first want to kind of cover a formula to establish for your business to where, we're coming up on the new year. And, if you're approaching the business where you want to reach your goals, right? To know how many people are in your pipeline in order to reach those goals becomes, you know, pretty critical, overall, right? In terms of the path to results that would be success based on the goals that you have. The other, critical elements would be to know the number of conversations that you need to have per week and the number of appointments that you need to create from that activity. That then leads to the people that you're working with in your pipeline. I know this sounds like a lot, but if you just focus focus on and track those numbers and do the hard things necessary to meet the numbers that you need to meet, right? Whether it be, you know, 50 conversations a week, 2 appointments a week. Like if you just go out and control that element to achieve that, and then also understand like, all right, is it working to where my pipeline is this big as a result? I have all the confidence in the world that you're going to reach your goal. It's when we're not living that sort of lifestyle as a business owner and we're just out there, winging it, or thinking that we're doing enough activity and working hard and putting the time in, but it's on the wrong stuff. You have a high risk of not reaching the goals because it's not, clarified and calculated and something that you're accountable to performing to. So there is, a certain amount of healthy pressure that you need to have on yourself in order to do high level things. But we've got it boiled down here to where it's just a matter of, how you communicate and how often you communicate and what results that produces in the form of the opportunity to consult with people and then the number of people that you're working with. I want to focus on the number of people that you're working with. Okay. So I'm going to give you, a formula that may be confusing, but I'm going to, chime in with questions to establish, I want you to leave this call with, what your formula needs to be that you can, chase and pursue throughout the year from here. Well, what this formula is that if you have this many people in your pipeline, you will reach your goals. And I'm going to walk you through how to calculate that. First want to define like just the pipeline itself and how you create categories to rank, potential buyers and sellers and investors is kind of the first step to this. And ABC would be common, hot, warm, cold, 1, 2, 3, whatever works for you, doesn't matter. Whatever it is specifically, but as long as it works for you to consistently categorize, the people that you're working with. How I think of it is ABC, and the A's in my pipeline would be I'm expecting them to go under contract in the next month. I'm expecting them, they're qualified, ready, willing, and able buyers, or it's a listing where I've got paperwork signed. We're doing the photos next week. It's going to be on the market next week. We're doing delayed. We've got a strategy for it to sell. Or a listing where it's, hey, if it's not delayed and aggressive, but we're going on the market and we've got market transparent pricing and we know it may take a few weeks, but it's going to sell. It's going to go under contract in the next month. Those are your A's. Okay. at least in my way of thinking about how I'm going to present this formula to you. You can, say that my A's are people that are going to transact and get under contract in the next 3 months. It's just going to be a different form. Okay. B's would be, a longer time frame out, or, maybe it's an example where they're saying they want to be under contract this month, but they're not willing to make a competitive offer. The market's still strong enough where, you know, they're not willing to make a competitive offer and they want the hot properties. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not an A. There's that piece missing of they're not willing to compete, and therefore they're not going to be, as strong as they can, even though they want to transact right away. May take longer than a month to get them under contract. But that sort of, logic of how to build a ranking system for your pipeline, that's my way of thinking about it. You could set up your own way. I stopped at B, C may be, so say if A is 1 month out, B is 1 to 2, 3 months out, and then C becomes like, anything 3 months to a year. You may go B's are 2 to 6 months out, and C's are 6 to 12 months out. It's up to you. Just build out a tool with the people that you're working with that you're expecting to transact with at some point. It's different than leads, right? I will say, because Antonio, for example, you mentioned that the leads that you have, they're waiting to get pre-approved. Those are leads. You can't put them in your pipeline yet because you don't know if they're going to be approved and able to transact. Once they get pre-approved and they're meeting the rubber in the road and they're saying, okay, let's get after it, then yeah, they're in their pipeline. It just depends on where, based on
What if
timing, willingness, etc.
what if they don't get approved? I mean, you still put them in the database, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
What's the
There's
difference
just
between your pipeline and database?
great question. Great question. The way to think of it, your database is just everybody that you want to keep contact with.
Okay.
Your main storage holder of contact information and information on those people, right? And that's a tool in itself. And that's going to have all the contact information for all the people in your life. Your pipeline is a separate tool, and maybe they're just within the same system or tool overall, and that's okay. But the pipeline is like, these are the people from my database that I am expecting to transact with. Good question, though. Here's the formula for how to build this the number of people in your pipeline that you need in order to reach your goals. Now, I will say that this is going to include anything that you have pending and the A's in your pipeline. Okay, so understand if you have 2 deals under contract, it would and the say an example, if you have 2 deals under contract currently and you have 3 A's in your pipeline, the way that you're ranking and organizing it, then your total would be 5 for this formula. So now I'm going to walk you through it. Okay. You would take the first part of it is the number of deals that you need to close per month in order to reach your goals. All right. So let's say you have a goal of 12 deals per year. You want to do 12 deals in 2026. 12 divided by 12 is 1. So you need to close 1 deal per month in order to reach your goal of 12 for the year. If your goal is 24 homes sold, then that would be 2. Right. But find out number of deals to close per month in order to reach your goals. First part of the formula. Now you're going to multiply that by 3. What the 3 is the number of months that it takes to get the A's in your pipeline to close. And I'm using 3 because that means I'm going to take 1 month to get them under contract and then 2 months to close from there. For an overall average of 3 months to where the point they enter my pipeline as an A, like that buyer or seller that I'm excited about, to where it's like, they're happening, we're getting them an offer accepted right away, and then they're gonna be closing. Like that point would be the multiplier of 3. Now, if you want to use a different formula and you said, I really want to treat my A's as, you know, sometime in the next 3 months, they're going to get under contract, and that's going to take them 2 months to close, then that number to multiply by would be 5. Does that make sense? So in this case, let's say you're going to organize the A's in your pipeline to be like ready, willing, and able, and you expect them to get under contract in the next month. And then they're going to close in 2 months after that. And again, could be 45 days or 45 days for a 3-month total overall. So you're going to multiply in this case, if it's 12 deals per year, 1 times 3 is still 3, right? If you need 24 deals for the year to reach your goal, then 2 times 3 is 6. Now, it's a 3-part formula. The last part is you're going to divide by 50%. Now, what this 50% refers to is the conversion rate of these people actually closing. Now, you may be thinking, well, if they're in my pipeline and I'm feeling that confident that they're going to, get under contract in the next month, and this represents deals I'm already under contract for, shouldn't that conversion rate be higher than 50%? And the answer is yes. Like, hopefully 50% of the people that you're expecting to transact with and things under contract, hopefully 50% of the time they don't go away or, deals die. However, this formula also represents a super conservative number to chase, right? So where it's like, if you reach this goal throughout time of, in this example, 1 deal per month times 3 divided by 50% would be 6 people in your pipeline at all times. That means between A's that aren't under contract yet and what you have under contract and pending, you need 6 at all times. Well, if you go out and you're constantly monitoring your pipeline size and what you have pending to hit that number, and you're constantly hitting it, you would, because the ratio is only 50%, you will reach your goal. Because I'm willing to bet that you're going to convert higher than that. But it becomes conservative, especially with, inexperience and you're figuring things out. Like, you will have deals that die. Even experienced agents are going to have a lot more deals that die in the market ahead. That's a topic in itself. But if you go out and, push yourself to reach a metric for your business, a KPI, is another way to look at it, where KPI is key performance indicator, right? And if you're every week looking at your pipeline size and what's under contract and seeing if you're at the number that you need, well, when you're not, it's okay. It gives you, relevance to where you stand, but it's going to give you a push to go out and build that result to where it needs to be. So over time, if you're just looking at it being short and nowhere near where it needs to be, like, that's going to wear on you. And you're going to push yourself to more results. So to recap again, say you want a big business, you want to close 36 deals in 2026. That's 3 deals per month. Multiplied by 3 is 9. And divide that by 50% for the closing ratio would be, you need 18 people between A's in your pipeline and deals under contract in order to reach your goal of 36 homes sold for the year. And if you go out week in and week out and look at your pending business and your A's in your pipeline and see if that totals up to 18, you play this game. Big part of the pipeline book is to gamify your business by using a pipeline and move C's to B's and B's to A's and A's into closing. And there'll be plenty of times when you just need to move them out of your pipeline. You're moving people down. And this A, I thought they were an A, but they're not showing up like one. I gotta treat them as a B. And to play that game like physically, right, where you're moving people up and down and in and out. Leads come into the pipeline. They go back to leads because they're not qualified yet, but they're still a lead. Like say you get somebody that is in your pipeline, but then they go buy a new car, and now they can't qualify for the mortgage. They're probably still a lead. They probably still want to buy a house. They just messed up for that aspect, and now they can't. But to gamify your business using the pipeline tool becomes key. To gamify your business in general and really like, chasing the standards that you need to reach that you can try to reach or control directly, like the number of attempts that you make to interact with people, like, the number of appointments that you can get from a high level of attempts for the week, and knowing where your pipeline stands. Those three things, right? Because keep in mind, activities lead to a pipeline, and pipeline leads to production. And we're identifying the three crucial metrics to measure for your business to live in that flow, right? Where you're doing what it takes to be active and making contacts and meeting people, doing open houses, getting leads, knocking on doors, whatever it is, right? You're doing the activity side of it. It's leading to opportunities to work with people. You're converting there and you're working with them and they're in your pipeline. Then you get into the, okay, let's close them. We got a pipeline of sales here that we got to close. Now you're playing that game. Now you're able to focus on, okay, taking my pipeline and turning it into production. You really need to earn the opportunity to focus in that side of the spectrum, right? Of pipeline to production. You really got to live in the focus of, your activities are going to lead to the pipeline. And you really got to live there for a long, long time and really forever. But eventually, if you can create consistency in a habit of just activities that leads to that pipeline, and you can't stop that lifestyle, yeah, your mental focus can shift to where it's just, all right, I got this pipeline. Let's freaking convert this thing. Let's create a 75% conversion ratio instead of 50%. Let me go prove that. Now here's a formula. Before I move off that math formula there, anybody have questions? Do each of you have like unit-based goals for 2026 that you can apply that formula to?
I might have to, take another look at them, kind of reevaluate, but yeah.
Get to a place where you can live this, right? And have an economic model set up that gives you the standards that you need to reach for your business. Every business owner has to have this element. Just showing up and doing some things. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not enough. You could do that at a high level, and yeah, I'll bet on some success, but you're just not going to know if it's leading you to where you want to get to. If you don't have stated goals, then you don't really know where you need to get to. But establish, goals, figure out an economic model. That'll give you the conversations and the appointments that you need to go on a weekly basis. And however many homes you need to sell, you can figure out this pipeline formula of, between your pending business and the A's in your pipeline, how many you need to have in order to reach your goals. Now, let's say you have people in your pipeline that you're struggling with. Here's kind of the framework to walk them through, or walk yourself through with them. Okay. The first question becomes, so this is an example of like, okay, all right, Jason, I have an A in my pipeline, but it's been over 30 days. What's going on? You'll have that happen a lot throughout your career. You could just be reactive at that point and, hope and pray and wait for things to happen to where they get under contract. Or you could be proactive and really figure out what to do next based on this framework or this formula that I'm going to lay out. Got 4 parts to it. Okay. First question to ask yourself is, what's their motivation? Because if you can't define what motivates this buyer, this seller, this investor, chances are, if they don't have a motivation, chances are they're not going to be an A. Or just really, they're not going to be an A. I can say that bluntly. Like, people don't transact in real estate without having a motivation. It's just, it's not a pair of shoes. It's not a drunk purchase that you make on Amazon at 1 a.m, home from a late night. Right? So motivation has to be there. How well you consult and how well you ask questions and listen and dig in and get personal and earn their trust, is going to dictate whether or not you know this and know it at a high level. If you don't know, if you can't answer that question, that's probably the step to take is, okay, you got to re-engage with them and figure out what that motivation is. Now, if you have a motivation, so say like, Antonio, you had an example, family, has kids, renting an apartment, they want to get a home, they want to raise their family there, they want more space, all motivating things. Second question to ask yourself would be, what's the pain created by them not being under contract right now? What's the pain by this buyer that needs to buy a home not having an offer accepted for them to buy a home and move into? Because if there isn't a pain, there may not be, as valid as a motivation as you'd like there to be. You're essentially validating that motivation, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I told you, I'm just, I mean, yeah, they're saying the kids and they want to upsize. So trying to get them pre-approved and they're just, kind of taking their time here. Yeah.
Yeah. That's okay. And what you're gonna find out is like how motivated they are to do this. And you're early on with this example, so it sounds like, just again, be patient,
Yeah.
follow up diligently. The more that you can find out about them in this follow-up process to use at a later date helps, right? But one of the missions you have is just like, is their situation truly painful, or is it just comfortable enough to where they don't have to take a high level of urgency, right? So, for example, like if they're renting right now, and I don't know if this is the case, but I'm just gonna speak hypothetically, right? So let's say that you got this lead, they want to buy, they're renting, they have a family, they want to, get into a home with their family. They're not getting back to you, too timely in terms of following up on the pre-approval process. If you didn't know their lease doesn't expire for another 12 months, that would, give you enough context to know that, okay, sense of urgency probably isn't going to be there, right? If you knew that lease expires in 3 months and they need to be under contract in the next 3 weeks in order to give the proper notice and really have security that this is going to close on time, different sense of motivation. Right. So, in that example where it's like, what's the pain that's created for them is like, well, if they don't get this done, then they're going to have to re-up their lease. They're not going to be happy for the next year. They're not going to be building equity for the next year. The kids are still in the school district they don't want to be in, so on and so forth. So really finding out as much as you can while building trust and rapport, helps you understand like what you have and really sets you yourself, right, as a salesperson to know like, yeah, I should be transacting with these people right now because they have reason to transact. When you don't know that, you're in a weird spot because like you want it to happen, but you don't know if you're able to actually, be in a position to make it happen, to their liking or to their needs because the, the timing may be off. But if you have an example where you know the motivation, you know that it's painful by them not being under contract right now, then you can go to the third and they're out there making offers or out there in the marketplace and they're not getting an accepted offer. Third question is, why are they not under contract right now? What's going on that they're not, able to get a win? Is it something they're not performing to? Is it just a general, the house they want, the price range they want to get it at, and the location they want to get it in doesn't exist, or there's only, one out of 100 options fit? Are they making offers with low deposits, or are they making offers with a, not a favorable lender? Are they making offers on hot property with competition that has an inspection contingency? When you focus on this aspect, it should give you, okay, here's elements that we can focus on together to get over the hump. That fourth step, the fourth question to ask yourself becomes, what's the next step to take? Are you doing it based off of they're not under contract for this reason, and as a result, they're not going to meet their goals that I know are motivating, and there's pain associated with that. When you use that to then craft and take action on a step to take with them, becomes incredibly purposeful for conversions. And just it's a quality of life play on your end, really, as a business owner, because now you're out there like cause and effect, right? Like trying to go, cause change or lead to a result versus just as a business owner wondering if this is going to be the weekend where they see something that they like and buck up and make a competitive offer. I think the overall point is that it doesn't happen like that organically. You're the leader in that relationship. You need to lead them to your goals. I'm sorry, to their goals. And you need to be, in an intentional place to be able to kind of, help put together the plan to lead them with, right? And this mission that I put you on of like, okay, how do I, what step do I need to take next with these people to convert? Well, when there's motivation and it's validated and there's something that's, a gap to them meeting their success, that gap is the obvious thing to poke at. But you have to have some sort of process to get to that point with each person in your pipeline. And then you have to go take it. But overall, an overall theme to really every conversation or every interaction becomes, what's the next step? and attempting to close to that next step wherever possible, as often as possible. And that could just be as simple as like a database conversation, a sphere conversation. There's no lead, there's nothing for you to follow up on. And hey, listen, you mind if I give you a shout in a few months, see what's going on? You just attempted to close to the next step. They're like, yeah, no, cool. You have their permission. Antonio, we covered it earlier, like that pre-approval that you're chasing. If you talk with somebody today and they still haven't taken the steps that they need to, and you ask for permission, where it's like, hey, if by the end of the week I don't hear from you, am I okay to give you a buzz and see where you're at with it? They're like, yeah, no, sure, no problem. Appreciate it. It actually holds me accountable. Appreciate you being there. This is really cool. Like, game on. If they say like, yeah, dude, I just got so much going on right now. Like, just put this on the back burner for now for another month. Okay.
Yeah, but you're right though. Finding out when it ends is something I should have already done because that changes. I mean, the whole dynamic. If the lease isn't up for another 6 months, that would make more sense. So definitely finding that out would
Yeah.
change the dynamic.
I think I rattle it off often, but just like the checklist of things that you want to find out in a consultation. But I like fill in the blanks of who, what, where, when, why, how. Like you don't like when I say dig, it's I guess the first chapter in any sales book is know the personality that's in front of you, right? And if you got somebody that doesn't want you to dig into their personal life, there's still things that you need to find out. You're just going to do it in a more direct manner. Like for example, if you're talking to me as a potential client, and you can pick up that I'm type A, I'm high D personality, like I don't want you to sugarcoat it. I don't want you to beat around the bush. Like, let's go. Let's get this done as quickly as possible. Tell me exactly what I need to do. Be as specific as possible. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Get after it. Right. Well, there's still digging that you need to do to get the answers. But, we may be skipping a lot of the small talk, or you should be skipping a lot of the small talk and, pleasantries and fluffing it up type of stuff. If you have the opposite personality in front of you, yeah, you may have to spend 20 minutes just hearing about their grandkids before you start getting to work. That's okay too. But once you know the read that you have on the other person that you're consulting with, the mission becomes the same in terms of fill in the blanks for that list. Who, what, where, when, why, how. Once you know enough, you want to get to a point where you can decide on like, yeah, no, we can reach that goal. I can help you with that. No problem. Let me tell you how. But yeah, to your point, like helping somebody in a lease buy a home, there's certain pieces of necessary information that help fill in the blanks to help you. It's all good. This is the way learning goes, right? Like that I could tell the light bulb went off, right? And for tenant or buyer leads that are renting, you'll probably always ask that question from here of like, tell me about your lease. When's it expires? A month to month? Because if you knew right now, like you wouldn't even be in this conversation if you had this lead
Yeah,
and you knew their lease wasn't expiring until next September. Well, that's why they're not called back.
that would make sense as to why they're not in a rush. So
Now,
yeah,
your
find that
next
out.
step can still be to the same, and it just may be delivered with different context, right? To where now it's like, hey, listen, not to rush you. I know we got time. The only reason that I, want to push you to do this is so that you have plenty of time to turn around anything that's needed. Well, more so to, really work on things over the course of the next 9 months to be in a position where you can qualify for the best rate possible. qualify for the best loan program possible. So no rush, but you tell me, is it something that you want to be able to focus on in the next couple of weeks here, or what can I do to help? Wrap up the pipeline conversation to where, the focus today is really having a standard to chase that is designed to reach your goals of actual production. Okay, and that formula to establish. Really, analyzing the opportunities in your pipeline in a manner to where you can craft a calculated step to take with them next. And take it as often as possible. Because otherwise, osmosis is not a strategy in sales, right? Like just things are going to evolve naturally, organically over time. Like that's not the strategy. Hope is not the strategy. Throwing it at the wall and hoping that sticks is not the strategy. You got to be the one to lead them and, cause change at times or cause progression, but you got to be proactive with that. Third concept with this pipeline discussion is really to gamify your business using this tool. Move the C's to the B's and the B's to the A's and the A's to closing and create a pile of leads that you want to get into that pipeline because they warrant being in there. Take it further where just that database as a whole, the activities to it, spur these results of leading to this pipeline. We're really focusing in on establishing this tool for your business now. And I realize, like, as new agents, you may be hearing this and be like, it's not much of a tool here, dude. I got 2 people. Establish it now, develop the consistency of using this tool so that when there is 45 people in there, it's fully functional and just a well-oiled machine at that point versus 45 people in your life that are all scattered throughout. Like things slip through the cracks. Without this pipeline tool, actual money is going to slip through the cracks. And you don't want that. Lauren, I'll talk about door knocking. No worries if you can't come off mute, but if you have anything specific you want me to address, let me know. The, door knocking wise, I guess, a couple reasons why to do it, right? One would be to build your database. Another may be to supplement, your marketing or your effort for marketing to a listing that you have. I mean, like building a database, I would put in that lead generation category, right? But that's how to think of it is like, okay, do I have a listing that I need to sell? And does it, drive me to go knock on the neighbor's doors in order to sell it? Figure out a way to make that connection? Or is this a lead generation database building opportunity? First thing I'll say is like, select a neighborhood with purpose, right? So like just trying to door knock the entire county or city or even your town, it's impossible, right? I mean, anything's possible, I guess, but you get the point. So I think some of the obvious reasons to select an area to door knock would be you live there or you want to do a lot of business there.
Yeah, I would do my neighborhood.
Yep.
I just want my
Another reason you have a listing right there, right?
yeah, and it makes me. I mean, obviously, this probably won't even help, but when you see like a new house for sale, you're like, because I walk my dog every day. So I'm like, maybe if
Hey,
I talk to them.
That's actually funny you said that. I had the same thing. I had a neighbor like 8, 9 houses down put up a for sale sign. And I was like, come on.
It
I gotta,
hurts.
I gotta get out there. Sorry. But yeah.
That'd be an advantage too if I'm right here, you know. Uh,
really, listen, I'll let it sting if it's somebody that you knocked on their door, you've been in communication with, that sort of dynamic of a loss. Don't get me wrong, it stings no matter what, but it shouldn't sting as much when it's like, wow, they don't even know me. I've never been in contact with them. Now that stings to where it fuels the fire to where it's like, well, damn it, this is my neighborhood. I'm never gonna not be in contact with somebody. Game on. But question becomes like, okay, you got the courage to go knock on doors. Now what? And let's break this down to just think about the desired outcome. And the way that I would encourage you to think about an activity like this is that it's not knocking on doors in the neighborhood that you live in order to identify, listing opportunities. It's, the controllable outcome is, can you build a database with these relationships, or can you form new relationships and that lead to them being in your database? So the most basic thing you can control is are you going to be able to communicate with them, and are you going to be able to get them in your database? So then it becomes like, all right, what's going to create the path of the least resistance or friction, in order to allow that to happen? And think of it this way: just showing up at somebody's door and asking if they can be in your database and you can have their info. No, thank you. Showing up to the door with, hey, here's why I'd like your info, or here's what I'm doing in return, may lead to some things. So it's kind of like, no other word comes to mind besides gimmick, but I say it, genuinely, of like, it's okay to have a gimmick for your business, but like, what's the gimmick that's going to get people to want to interact with you, right? Or what's the reason of value that's going to get people to want to interact with
I was just gonna offer, a free CMA, and then I have like little baggies of Halloween candy with my card in it.
you?
Mm.
I do. You now understand, well, first of all, CMA, realtor jargon, replace it with something that's more consumer friendly. Equity analysis, current market valuation. So it's CMA again, it's just realtor jargon. We all know what that means. It's a training term, right? It's a specific term. I wouldn't even use comparative market analysis, but like I like equity analysis a lot. Compared to the Zestimate, right? Like whatever, essentially pop culture. So you were leaning into that. Just understand that it's fine. It's just you're coming to their door with the purpose of something real estate specific. So just the probability of capture will be lower as a result. One, because you're a stranger to them and they may not need that service. And 1, 2, and 3, just in the like sales objection process for consumers, right? Now, what I'm getting at is, can you accomplish the same and have something more like you're attempting to offer them value with the equity analysis, but can you go a step further? And you kind of think of it now. I think of it with the candy, right? So you're showing up with purpose, where it's like, I have some candy, and I also have an opportunity to offer you an equity analysis. I don't have a problem with it. Yeah, it's some candy plus a giveaway raffle thing plus a equity analysis type of offer. It's one way to think about it. But yeah, I wouldn't, you're doing good by not just showing up and saying, "Hey, I'm the local realtor in your neighborhood and I'd like you to give me your info." Now just understand it's a it's a low efficiency activity. It's not designed where you're going to go knock on 10 doors and get nine, people to want to talk to you. That's okay. It's just the path is always in the math. Just understand what the path is that you're committing to and analyze it that way versus, having disappointment when, certain results aren't met. That help? What else? Door knocking wise, connect.
Like, if one person actually wants it, I need to know information about their house. So I'm thinking of, like, having like a Google Doc that I could text them with, like, and have them fill out all their information and like details about the home. I don't know. 'Cause I don't
Yeah,
want
a
like,
QR code linked a form or something that collects that information.
Mhm.
So I'm not an expert on door knocking. I'm vulnerable enough to admit. Neither is ChatGPT, GTP, whatever it is, but let's see what it has to say here. Community connector, not a salesperson. Quick market update. Put together a quick one-page summary. Bring something of value. Share it with the local event. Offer neighborhood intel, insider access. Follow up. Listen, the reason I just did this is just to give a quick example of AI for your business. And don't get me wrong, like I want you coming here and using JI as often as you can, but like just get use this to get the wheels turning even more. But at least AI agreed with what I'm saying. What else? Really, again, keep in mind there's tools that I'm leading you to build out. These tools, like a pipeline, have really been the same set of tools that sales businesses have used for the past forever, like modern history. I, I'm vulnerable to admit that, like, I may be wrong here, but I really feel confident that we're going to be talking about the same set of tools, and sure, they'll evolve 50 years from now. So your, mindset as an agent establishing business, you have the formula for how to do it in a way that, like, yeah, there may not be much to it to add to a pipeline right now, but if you establish and use a pipeline tool and push for the performance indicators from it, when you're cranking, like, it's going to be that much of an easier road for you compared to having to start, you're going to need this tool, period, for a successful business. So start now and build on it versus starting when it's like, I got 40 clients I got to organize. What's the best way to do this? And I'm at the point of needing to do it because I just realized I lost 10 deals, people I forgot about. So embrace that opportunity.